I think. Oh, that was close. Lion roaring. That is very, very close to our southern boundary. So it looks like, sounds like they might be heading this way. So I'm just going to go have a quick look on the boundary. But I will chat about the algae as we're moving. So quite infest. And I hear a squirrel alarm calling. Maybe there's more lions around. If the impala starts snorting, that's a good sign. Squirrel alarm calling about 70 meters in, so I don't think you guys are going to be able to hear it. Just going to take my earpiece out for a second so I can listen carefully. I'm definitely interested in something, but they're not sure exactly what it is yet. Okay, well, we try to figure out what's going on in this area. We're going to cross over to Scotty, who's with a feathered friend, and hopefully we'll be back with some good news.
Welcome back, everyone, and I believe you've been having a great sighting of a hummerkop with Brent, and sadly the lions are a little bit far away, but they are close, so maybe they'll come on later. But in the meantime, take a look at this beautiful bird. We actually tried to stop and show you one earlier, but it flew off. So at least we got an opportunity there. The crested barbet. Very brightly coloured bird, and you would have noticed that punk rocker mohawk, hence its name, the crested barbet. They're really awesome birds to see, and so are a lot of the other birds that live within this area, but because so often they're very small, unless we're close to them, it's difficult to appreciate their beauty, and often either, unless you've got binoculars or a camera with a good zoom, you could drive past a very, very pretty bird without even realizing its beauty, simply because it's so condensed. And we had a great comment through from Lisa earlier saying that maybe the birds don't roar like the lion do, but they're still a very, very important part of the ecosystem. And you're entirely correct, Lisa. It wouldn't be the same, and this whole environment wouldn't work if it wasn't for all the little different animals and plants only to see the big stars of the show. And we try general areas, so I'm hoping that if we don't find the leopard, we may find the elephants. Failing that, I'm sure there will be something else of interest, so not to worry. Amanda from Alabama would like to know if this young male leopard still nurses. And no, he's too old for that. And from about 3 months of age, young leopards will start eating meat. They will still drink milk until about 6 months of age. So those are the rough average ages where a young leopard will start eating meat and stop drinking milk. But just like humans, it does vary on the individual cub and also the adult who's looking after it. Shadow's main role now will simply be to catch and feed, or catch as much prey as possible. From what I've seen and heard over the radio, she tends to go back to him every 12 hours or so, kind of twice a day. It seems like she may go towards him after she has been unsuccessful in hunting, and then move with him into a new area which she can try and hunt in. That way, keeping him close by, or close-ish by, so that if she does make a kill, she doesn't have to move too far to call him and bring him back to the kill. The further she goes from the kill, she runs the risk of it being stolen by another animal. Well, it looks like we have one lone wildebeest. Brent's had an incredible sighting of wildebeest fighting or playing yesterday. Really high intensity. This is going to be a little bit more serene though. And it's in all likelihood a lone bull. It's not uncommon for wildebeest bulls to move on their own. So not a huge surprise to see him here. Look at how beautiful those brindles are that run vertically down his body. They are bizarre animals, but certainly do have a beautiful coat. There's not as many wildebeest in this area as there were during the summer months, so an interesting shift. And they've obviously moved off to areas with more big open grassy plains, which is where they'll find the majority of their food and also be most comfortable. In thick vegetation they are not going to be nearly as comfortable as they are in open plains, because they're not evolved and adapted to escape prey and thick prey. Just heard a good radio call. And it sounds like Shadow's cub Sindile has been found, so I'm just going to get an update quickly. Hold on. I'm sure we're close to this area anyway. And how awesome is that? Like I said, it's not confirmed. I've just got a whispering over the radio, so I'm just going to double check now. Sean for Scott. Morning, I've just come back onto Triple M transformer. Confirms that Shadow's Montana has been located. Okay, come back. Okay, good news, folks. Confirm I can make my way. Morning, everyone. How are you doing, Roy? How's it going? Okay, that's fine. I'm in the small car. Apologies folks, I'm just listening to the radio and trying to find out what to do here. want to waste any time because it sounds like Sindile's moved into some thick bush. So we need to get there as quickly as possible to make sure we can follow him. We had an advantage over the other vehicles because we have a very compact car that's more maneuverable through the thick bush. But we have come across an unlikely traffic jam up ahead of us. Okay, good. I think this is where the leopard is, so I'm just going to find out from these guys. Morning, everyone. How are you doing? Morning.
No.
How are you? Sorry, did I give you a fright?
Yeah, I didn't know that there's a vehicle behind me.
No, don't worry. Okay.
Sort of went towards that side.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. So, we now just need to find a way in here. Hold on tight, everyone. Well, this was the area we had been driving up and down this morning. I wonder how many times he saw us driving past. And he may have wondered, well, I wonder why they're not stopping to have a look today. Well, it's because we didn't see him, but he must have been very close. And aren't we lucky that that other ranger found him? And it's so important how everyone works together and shares information out here. Okay, this is exciting stuff. We know he's here, but not exactly where. So please help as we search through this thick bush for him. We're going to be checking from termite mound to termite mound as a starting point. As leopards will often use them as good vantage points or places to lie up and relax. Where are you? And tips of what to look out for, I would suggest, are the white tip of a tail or a twitching ear. So we'll rather try and find another way to drive around. Where are you, young Sindile? Got a question through from James, and he would like to know if this young male leopard has made a kill of his own yet. And he most certainly would have, James, not that I've ever seen or that I've actually heard of, but I can guarantee you he would have caught something, possibly a tree squirrel or a dwarf mongoose, even a lizard, I guess. So he has made kills, but probably quite small ones. This is so frustrating. We know he's here, but not exactly where. That vehicle that we arrived next to had just lost sight of him, heading towards this area that we're in now. The pressure's on. Ryan and I don't have any excuses because he's just been seen. And if you just give us some time, I think we're going to get lucky. It's too soon to panic. So we'll keep you with us for the next few minutes in case we find him. Failing that, we may send you back to Brent so Brian and I can focus on the task at hand. Go ahead, Sean. No negative. Great news, we've also got Sean in the area now, so Sean's also giving us a hand. Just going to check carefully on this little game trail here to see if I can see any of his tracks. No sign of him walking down this little game trail. I'm certain he would have been using a pathway. So I'm just going to check very carefully. If we find out what pathway he is moving on, that will help us greatly in well spotted. If we just look across here, we may see him somewhere in this thick bush. I think Sean may have had a visual. Well, now you can see him, and we've got lucky, we can breathe again. We can't see him very well from here, so we are just going to reposition. And it's a good lesson for me to learn. I was so busy looking for tracks that if I had have just looked up, I would have seen the leopard. Let's reposition. I'm not sure what our best angle is going to be, but I'm just actually going to let Sean move first, and the reason for that is simply that it's again a guiding protocol that we try and use in sightings with animals that are static, that are not on the move. It's unnecessary to drive two vehicles towards it at any given stage, so we move one at a time. And we're just going to let Sean get comfortable and into a good spot for his guests, and then we'll do the same way. And while we wait, I'm going to just take off my jacket. It's heated up all of a sudden. Okay. That should be a bit better. It's still not easy, it's very thick vegetation here, so we're not going to try and get too close in case we chase them off. Wonderful. Well, it was a tricky decision deciding to come back here after already spending some time here this morning, but thankfully this morning it paid off. Well, just like the time we spent with him yesterday afternoon, it looks like he is very sleepy, and it's important to know that leopards will sleep for many hours a day, especially in his scenario where he is not required to hunt for himself yet. The only hunting he will do will be recreational. That's not to say he won't feed on any of the small prey he catches, but he'll rely on his mother for the bulk of his food, and while he waits for her to hunt, he can live a leisurely, sleepy life. She, on the other hand, will not be so fortunate and probably will be sleeping a lot less than him, but they typically will spend 16 to 20 hours sleeping every day, your average cats. I really wonder, it would be great to know if his mother did come back at any stage last night to touch base with him. We'll never know, but it is something just to think about. what could happen at any stage during the rest of this broadcast is that she could return, and wouldn't that be wonderful? What we would expect to see is that initially his ears would prick up as he hears her contact calling for him, and then he'll contact call back to her, so he'll return the call, but he is the one that will run towards her. Once she hears his initial response, she won't move a muscle. She would have moved close enough to him, and he'll do the rest of the work, so he will lead us to her in all likelihood. They will reunite, and then depending on whether she's made a kill or not, she will hurriedly take him back there, or possibly just move off with him into a new area where she decides to leave him, and then she'll continue to hunt.
Negative. We're a little bit, quite a bit further north of Zebra Drive. Do you want to join? Sure. You guys can watch any of those videos.
This might be a good opportunity for Brian to just zoom out and again show you how difficult these animals are to spot. I mean, how are we supposed to know that there's a leopard in there? It's close to impossible to tell. And isn't it wonderful how tricky it can be to spot these animals? It goes to show how lucky we are when we do see them. And I guess it makes Brian and myself feel a little bit better about this morning's performance, because we drove along the same road 2 or 3 times this morning in the hope that he was going to pop out. I was off on foot checking for tracks. I did have his tracks up and down. They were heading generally in this direction, but a little bit further north of where we are here. But it would, like I say, as we were coming into the sighting, be really interesting to know how many times he looked at us and thought, well, it's interesting that they're not stopping today, but it's simply that we didn't know he was there. You'll notice I've peeled off quite a few layers, and it has warmed up considerably, even though the sun was only out temporarily.
Because it was coming their way, and then all of a sudden he started to stop, and then he just drove past.
I've had elephants in the reserve, and you both attended. Those elephants are very different to these ones. They're far more.
What can he smell, I wonder? He seems to be lifting his nostrils up into the air. There's a very, very gentle breeze blowing now. But it's obviously nothing too important or exciting, because sleep takes preference of whatever it was that he smelt. We've just had a great comment through from Angie in Ohio, and she said that while Shadow's out hunting during the day, we become Sindile's daycare, and I guess that's certainly one way of looking at Angie. Well, James asked a little bit earlier if he's made a kill yet. James, interestingly, we saw him getting very, very close to catching some dwarf mongooses. He would be up in a second if any potential opportunity presented itself to him. And that's why it's important to, once you've found an animal, invest time in it. If you were to rush in the hope of finding action with animals wherever you go, you would often miss out on the interesting behavior that you see if you spend time with an animal. And we're in the fortunate position that you have the opportunity to switch between the two vehicles, so it becomes a little bit easier, because if anything were to happen while we weren't live, we would be just a radio call away from all of you. Still a very still morning here, without too much bird song, but that's maybe just this specific area, and who knows what's going on the other parts of the reserve. Rita's just asked an interesting question, and good morning, it's good to have you with us. Rita's asked if he does only practice catching small prey like mongooses and squirrels, and his mother does all the hunting of the bigger prey, how will he learn to hunt the bigger prey? It's a good question, and I think a lot of it is instinctive, because leopard cubs are almost always away from their mothers when they're hunting. They don't actively get to see and necessarily learn the finer arts of hunting, and it's instinctively programmed in their makeup to be able to hunt and chase prey. And I guess just like a kitten, a domestic kitten, if you roll a fur ball or anything really, that motion of something moving away from it, oh, there's a little spider, sorry, dangling down from the, you might be, oh, it blew off in the wind. I don't know if you may have got a glimpse, but it was a very small spider that just got taken by the fine breeze. And like I was saying, sorry, the spider threw me off there. They will teach themselves to hunt, just like a domestic cat would run after a little ball of fur that you throw for it. They're programmed to chase things. So as long as prey continues to run from a predator, the predator's instinct to chase down that running prey will kick in. And the act of killing animals, I guess that is something, again, possibly instinctual, to go for the throat, to suffocate their prey. But it will be self-taught, and he will learn a lot, and he still has a lot to learn about hunting. But naturally, as he becomes bigger and stronger, he will feel more confident to take down bigger prey. Also, his appetite will force him to also aim for bigger prey. So I think it's a natural process of learning, and it's something that I believe is self-taught, and his mother will have no impact on his hunting. A statistic that I mentioned I would love to know yesterday is how many kills has he made to date. And even if it was just a grasshopper or a small insect that he caught when he was a little cub as his first kill, it would be incredible to know how many little animals he has caught. And I can't wait for that day, and it's going to happen, where we actually get to share with you him actively hunting. The amount of time we have been spending with him over the last few weeks makes me confident that we are going to get lucky one of these days, and I can't wait for that to happen. So if any of you may have just joined the show, we came across this leopard probably 5 or 10 minutes ago, and it was thanks to a radio update from one of the guides that bumped into him. We were actually on our way back here to have a second attempt at finding him, and thankfully before we could do that, the radio call came through, so we've just arrived. Obviously he was on the move when that guide found him, and it crossed over from Djuma into Arathusa, where we are now. And he's currently been fast asleep. That very well could change in the next 20 minutes of the broadcast. But in the meantime, if there are any questions that you would like to know about this leopard or anything really related to what we're doing out here, please send them through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. I heard a interesting update a little bit earlier, and apparently there was a male cheetah's track seen on Torchwood, which is just to the east of Djuma. So good prospects there. We've only seen one cheetah in 7 months of being here, since the end of November. We saw it twice, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, but it really would be wonderful to show you another spotted cat. So good prospects that there is a cheetah moving through the general area. There have been no tracks found on Djuma, but he could be lurking nearby. Georgianne in Illinois has touched on a subject we spoke about earlier, and that's human intervention when animals are injured. And she heard that the African wild dog is one of those animals that is endangered and will be looked after if in any way we can help, regardless of whether the injury was human related or nature related or a natural incident. And that's entirely true, and it does occur here in the Kruger National Park as well as the Sabi Sands. I'm not sure of when last there was need for intervention in the Sabi Sands, but it certainly will happen when the situation arises. And it really is wonderful how conservation methods are changing, and most of the time for the better. And it seems that globally there is an awareness around conservation and a knowing that we need to actually take more care of these precious animals, especially the ones that are endangered and we run the risk of losing altogether.
But welcome back. So, let you know what we've been up to since you guys have been with Scott and Sindile. We've been running around trying to find pretty much anything, and so far we haven't had any tracks apart from all those lion tracks we followed off property, and we've even heard that male lion calling so tantalizingly close to us. But hopefully they'll move this way in the evening. Hello, Ron from Scotland. Ron is coming to South Africa in August on a self-drive holiday, and Ron would like to know if I have any recommendations about other national parks possibly to visit. Ron is also going through to Namibia and to Mana Pools. Well, Ron, I'm quite jealous about the Mana Pools. Well, Ron, the problem with South Africa is it is such a big country when it comes to national parks, and there's some really fascinating national parks. But if you are going to be in this Lowveld area and in the north of the country, probably one of the more stunning national parks to visit would be Mapungubwe, which is on the border of Zimbabwe, and very, very beautiful scenery. I mean, huge granite and huge everywhere. Lots and lots of great elephant viewing there as well. Also, very from a cultural and historical point of view, definitely one of our more interesting national parks. There are walled cities within that park. There's a very famous, completely gold sculpture of a rhino that is from that area. So historically and culturally, as well as scenically, breathtaking is Mapungubwe. If you have time, but it is a really, really long way from this part of the world, but you are going towards Namibia. There's the Kalahari Gemsbok Transfrontier Park. Possibly some of the best self-drive predator viewing in the world. Is really, really stunning, but obviously not so many animals and more just beautiful views and good bird viewing. And if you're from Scotland and you fly fish, the South Midlands has some spectacularly good mountain stream fishing for brown trout. I hope that gives you a good idea, Ron. And if we go up to Namibia, not sure where in Namibia you're going, but obviously Namibia is quite a vast country and also lots of different areas to look for, and some spectacular areas there in the whole Sossusvlei, or the dead Sossusvlei, where they got those dead trees in the salt pan, those incredible dunes, the skeleton coast, and then up into the Caprivi, and along the Zambezi, and let me think else. And then obviously Marnapul speaks for itself. It's absolutely fascinating, fantastic place. Oh, and Etosha, yes, yeah, well done. Etosha also. And you are definitely, in my opinion, coming at the right time of the year. August is still quite dry, so the animals are going to be slightly easier to find because you've got great visibility because of all the grass and trees losing their leaves and the grass dying out, as well as the animals' dependency on those water holes. So a very good time of the year. Nice and warm. It's sort of the bridge between it getting really hot and it being, well, cold for us. I'm sure if you're in Scotland, you know a lot more about the cold than I do. But yeah, a really great time of the year to visit Southern Africa. I look forward to hearing about your adventures in August. So, time to roll the dice. I think it's time that the wildebeest and I had a little bit of luck. So I think we're going to go check Mvubu Road and then down into the little shortcut that goes past Gallagher Camp. See if there are any tracks there, because unfortunately we haven't seen any tracks apart from the lions departing. So guys, Scotty's repositioned himself, and so you hopefully have a great view of Sindile. We're going to continue on fighting the good fight, and we'll see you later. Welcome back everyone, and we've repositioned the vehicle ever so slightly. So we've got a better view of him, but he is still very, very comfortable on his little patch of earth here. You'll hear another vehicle behind us, and that's Cedric from Arathusa, who's just joined. Now, I must apologize, I completely forgot about a sighting of the quarantine male leopard chasing not one but two cheetah. So we haven't only seen one cheetah sighting in the last 7 months, there have been two, so thanks for reminding me about that. I was on leave when Brent was lucky enough to see that happen.
And it's interesting to know that cheetah are less powerful than leopard and have on accounts actually been killed by leopard. I've seen an incredible photograph with a leopard in a tree, with a cheetah dangling over one branch and an impala over the other. And I'm told what happened is that the leopard saw the cheetah make the kill and then came in and killed the cheetah and stole its kill. And while we look at him sleeping, we can talk about a few other differences between cheetah and leopard. You'll notice how his spots are, some of them are solid, but the majority of his spots are rosette, so it's not a solid black spot, and it's got a black outside with a brown or caramel center. Cheetah have only got entirely black spots, and they're often very round, so their coats are spotted but in a different fashion. And now that we can see his face, a cheetah would have a black tear mark running down from its eye along the side of its nostrils or muzzle. So the leopard lacks those tear marks of the cheetah. They're also a lot more robust in terms of their build. Cheetah are very slender and thin, whereas leopards have got a far bigger and stronger body.
Pretty much a leopard is pretty much the most powerful cat on the planet. Now like this will get up to about 75, 80 kilos a day. Females are half the size of the male, usually around about 35 or 40.
Now, as I discussed a little bit earlier, isn't it incredible that Brent got to see some leopard-cheetah interaction, and it must have been an incredibly exciting scenario to be involved with. And I'm sure a lot of you who are watching today were there with Brent when that happened. Can notice a black tear mark running down the edge of the eye down to the muzzle, which the leopard lack. The one below I'll show you just for interest is called a king cheetah, and it's basically a genetic throwback, and they don't get seen very often in the wild anymore. I'm not sure when last one was seen in the wild, but wouldn't that be interesting to see? Okay, well, there's just a few minutes left of the drive, and it doesn't look like at this stage Sindile is going to be performing for us, but don't be fooled. That could change in a matter of seconds, so it's worth hanging around. We also don't know what Brent may stumble upon in the last few minutes. Speaking of Brent, why don't you all head across to see what he's been up to, and so that he can say goodbye, and we'll be waiting here to end the broadcast, so we will see you shortly.
Because he's venturing around, and sometimes I get irritated with the long game.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've been having an amazing time with Scott and Sindile. We're just going to say our goodbyes. So from Willem and myself, it's been great having you on the back of the jigger. Even though we've had a quiet morning, we've had a really fun morning, looking at lots of different things and some nice tracking, even though the tracking didn't end up in any kitty cats. And hopefully those kitty cats decide to head back towards us on the sunset safari. So from Willem and myself, have a splendid rest of your day. It's always wonderful having your questions, and we look forward to having you with us on the sunset safari. So goodbye for now.
Oopsie. Welcome back, everyone, and you'll notice we're just trying to get you one last slightly different view of him. What a beautiful, beautiful animal, and we've been so lucky. We've spent an incredibly large amount of time with him over the last week or so, and now that we know where he is this morning, we've got a good chance of coming back and finding him this afternoon. So good prospects for the sunset safari. Who knows, Shadow may come back between now and then and collect him and take him to a kill, but at least we do have a very, very good idea of where he is, and that way I'm confident we may find him a little bit later on. Well, folks, it sadly has come to the end of the Sunrise Safari, and it's been great having you with us. A big thanks to Brian on camera, and also to Nikki, who is directing the show, and Tara lending her a hand. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and from myself, Scott, it's been great having you on board. We'll leave you with Sindile for the last few seconds. Enjoy. Even though